It's so weird.
Nice. I honestly, right now, I would take a little bit of that gloomy and weird because I'm in Texas right now and it is so hot.
Oh,
It's
I'm
like,
sure.
it's like I'll take a little bit of that.
I can understand that.
Awesome. All right. So we should be good to go. Yes. All right. So if you're ready, I'll do an intro and we'll jump into it.
All right, let's do it.
Oh, Dowland, is that how you pronounce your last name?
Yes, you're the first person to actually get it right on the first try.
Sweet. I was just sitting there, I was like, I think that's how it is. I don't see any other way how it could be, but
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Yep, not a problem. All right, awesome. I'll do the intro and we'll jump into it.
All right.
Cool. All right. Welcome, everybody, to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. This morning, we have a very special guest coming all the way from Massachusetts, Westfield, Massachusetts, to be specific. We have Bekka Dowland. How's it going today, Bekka?
Hi, Tom. Thank you so much for having me on this morning.
Absolutely. First off, I do want to thank you for being so active on our social medias. I've messaged you a few different times about this.
Yes.
And when you first started, I don't remember exactly how we first connected on Instagram specifically, but I remember just seeing a lot of your covers that you were putting up on Instagram at the time. And I think, were you putting them up on YouTube as well, maybe?
Yeah, I'm kind of like all over the place.
Yeah. But I remember seeing those covers and I was like, oh, those are absolutely amazing. I can't wait to see some new music because I know it had been a little bit since you released new
Yeah.
music. And then I saw you start promoting a new single and I'm like, okay, we have to make this happen. So,
Oh, thank you so much. That's so kind of you.
yeah. So you're from Westfield, Massachusetts, born and raised?
Born and raised.
What was it like growing up there?
Well, there's a lot of misconceptions about Massachusetts because a lot of people not from the area are like, oh, so you live in Boston, like you live in the city, you live in Boston. And it's like, no, I live on the other side of the state. That's not Boston. Wouldn't say it was necessarily city, not necessarily country. It was kind of like somewhere like in the middle. So I
Mhm.
loved how I grew up because it was kind of like in the suburbs, but like we also had access to everything,
Mhm.
which
It
was nice.
sounds similar to the way I grew up in around Chicago, whereas so anything north of like Springfield, oh, you're from Chicago? Okay, yes, I guess so, technically. And even now, it's been so ingrained in me when people ask where I'm at, I just say Chicago because it's like I'm not going to say, oh, I'm from Lansing, Illinois. Nobody knows
Yeah.
where that's at. So,
No, I totally understand. I got to a point where I was like, sure, yep, I'm from Boston.
right. But that's even bizarre because like Westfield's other side of the state. So,
Yeah, it's like 2 hours for us to get to Boston, which is crazy. And actually, something really funny is people from Western Massachusetts and people from Eastern Massachusetts actually sound different. So, like, my accent is like a Western Massachusetts accent, but if you go out more east and like towards Boston, they talk differently than we
yeah.
do.
So we were before we jumped down here, we were talking about my audio engineer that helps me out with a lot of the stuff. Jeff, his whole entire family's from Worcester, and the first time when I first met him, I couldn't really tell he had a Boston accent, but he hadn't been in Boston and he hadn't lived in Boston in a couple of years, so I think it kind of started to get beaten out of him a little bit. But
Yeah.
he was like, okay, my mom. One day we were hanging out, and he's like, dude, my mom's coming into town. You're going to see what a real Boston accent sounds like. As she comes in, she starts talking. And then other than a couple of like localized slang words that, I didn't know what a packy was. And I was just like,
Oh, really? Oh my
yeah.
God.
And so she just kept saying, like, when she needed to go to the store, she kept saying that. And I'm like, okay, that's the only reason I know you're from Boston. But other than that, I can't hear the accent. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, I
was
don't know.
weird.
That's so funny.
But yeah, so growing up in Westfield, what was the music scene like growing up? Or were you did you not start looking into the scene until a little bit later in life?
Well, I was raised on 90s
Hmm.
country. So like George Strait, Kenny Chesney, like that whole scene, we always had music on in the house, even if we had the TV on, like it was like the music channel, the country hot like
Mm,
countdown.
yeah.
So I was raised on country music, but I always knew I wanted to get into music. I just never knew how. Cause here where I grew up, it was like, oh, well, like that stuff doesn't happen here, cause like it's New
Mm,
England. Like you have to go to like Nashville or LA or wherever. So for a while, it was kind of just like ingrained in my own head that I was like, well, how am I going to make that happen from, here where like everyone's like, where's Westfield? What happens there?
uh, it's in the name. It's West Massachusetts.
Yeah, pretty much.
But so you always had music on in the house. When did you kind of figure out that you could sing?
Oh God, I was singing probably since I could talk. But I was in like the choir in school too, all throughout high school. And then was always writing, like it was either like little poems or like little melodies or things like that. But I actually didn't pick up an instrument until I was 21. So I was kind of like late to the game for that when I picked up a guitar. But I always knew it was something I wanted to do at a very young age.
Why do you think it was until you were 21 that you picked up the guitar?
That's a great question because I don't know because I've always been fascinated with the guitar. The very first guitar I ever got was in the 8th grade for
Mm,
Christmas, and I tried teaching myself, which I applaud people who can teach themselves because it's not easy. So I taught myself maybe like 2 or 3 really basic chords, and that was
mm,
it. And then finally, one day I was just like, all right, I actually want to take myself seriously, and I want to
mm.
put music to what I'm writing. And then I just decided I wanted guitar lessons, kind of just like that.
Nice. It's interesting. Like you brought up that people that could teach themselves is
Yeah.
amazing, but I think you can only teach yourself so far, and then you have to start looking at other people and start drawing from their experiences because you can only teach yourself what you know or what you can find out. And there's
Yeah,
some life experiences where it's just like you don't know, you know.
for sure. For
Uh
sure.
so it was 21 when you really started to 21 was around that time or the age that you started taking your music seriously.
I would say so, yeah. Like I was always in the back of my mind, I always knew it was like, okay, like what is the goal? And I always
Mm,
knew music is what I wanted to do with my life. I
mm,
just never like applied myself. I almost kind of want to call myself like a closeted musician because when I was younger, I would be like, well, I don't want to tell people like I write my own songs because I don't want to seem like I'm bragging. I
mm.
never wanted to come across as that way. So I would just sit in my room and like write music and sing to myself. But my mom was kind of like, well, who's gonna hear it if you're in your bedroom? And I'm like, yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah. That's the second time in two podcasts. Did a podcast last night,
Yep.
and that phrase "closeted musician" came out in that podcast last night.
That's so
I'd
funny.
never, it never had been spoken on the podcast before, and now it's twice in two podcasts. It's like, all
That's
right,
crazy.
did we just coin a phrase or something here?
I guess so.
Um, so it kind of took your mom to motivate you to get out and start taking it a little bit more seriously,
Yeah,
or
she's always been my biggest supporter. She always knew too. She was just like, I just know this is what you're meant to do. Even like some of my closest family members were like, I've heard you sing. I've seen you perform, like at your choir performances or this and that. Like, this is what you were meant to do. Like, this is why you were placed on earth. Like, you gotta get yourself out there.
yeah, for sure. Um, and so kind of taking that step, you had obviously started writing, playing, recording. What was like that next step for you? Were you just starting to play shows, or were you like automatically like, I got to start recording? Where's kind of your mindset when you had that switch of, okay, I'm stepping outside of the closet and I'm going to start playing music?
It actually started with YouTube.
Okay.
I would post like covers on there, which not exactly getting out, but for me, I was like, it's going somewhere at
Mhm.
least, like to people. And then I knew I didn't have any knowledge of like the industry at all. So I knew I was going to need help with that, which actually led me to going to a talent convention
Mm.
in 2019 called IMTA. To be honest with you, I forgot what it stands for, but that's really bad, but I forgot what it stands for. So I went there to kind of connect with people in the industry to see if I could get help that way.
Mm. And I think just what in life in general, going to these different conventions. I've been trying to get to some of these different conventions. It's the easiest way to meet people and get, like, yes, you have the internet now, but you kind of run this fine line of, oh, who's actually serious, who's actually what they say they are,
Right.
and at least at the convention, you can do at a convention or something, you could do a little bit more vetting. And if they have like a professional
Yeah,
booth or whatever it is, the vetting is a
absolutely.
little bit there. So,
Yeah, that was probably the greatest thing that we did, because now I have my team with NI Music Group, which
mm,
stands for Nothing's Impossible, which I love that. And they're all about helping like independent artists like me or people who have like no knowledge of the industry. Because, I walked into that convention and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know what goes into these things, kind of like that. So it was nice to meet people, kind of get myself out there, and now be where I am.
yeah, for sure. So this was all starting around 2019 when you started uploading to YouTube and stuff like that. What was the first song or first cover that you uploaded to YouTube?
Oh my gosh. It's probably privated now, to be honest. It was me singing a cappella. I can picture it. Me singing a cappella with a backwards Red Sox hat, a white t-shirt in front of my zebra print like curtains, because that was
Yeah.
the thing back then. And I think I sang, oh my gosh, it was a Justin Bieber cover. What was that song? Like Love Yourself,
Okay.
a cappella, and I was like snapping with it, and that was like, yeah, I think that's the latest one I can remember, the first one.
Gotcha. Was that because you hadn't quite stepped into the guitar yet? Like you weren't as familiar with the guitar yet that you're doing
Yes.
it a cappella?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so then you were doing that, and then 2020, obviously, that's going to be what it
Oh,
is.
yeah.
How much did that impact your plans for your music? I mean, you had started releasing music in
That was the
do
year,
yeah, that was
2020.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much did the pandemic kind of mess with everything or mess with your plans?
It was an interesting time, but I am someone believes everything happens for a reason.
Hmm.
So maybe just, I don't know, the fate, whatever you believe in, was just like, this isn't the time. But
Hmm.
basically, what happened is my very first single was scheduled to come out March 20th, and
Hmm.
the world shut down like 3 days before that.
Hmm.
So, like so excited, like, oh my gosh, my very first debut single is coming out. And then it's like, okay, awesome. You can't go anywhere like to
Yeah.
promote it. Well, that's when all of us kind of had to rely on like social media. And at the time, I don't even think I had a big following. I think I maybe had like 700 followers.
Mm.
And, I didn't really have any subscribers on YouTube. I wasn't really into TikTok yet. I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. So it was kind of just like a single was out there, but I was like, I don't know what to do now.
Yeah. And because like the logical thing is, okay, you got a single out, you go play show, you get out
Yeah.
there and you promote it. Like that's what you do. But then when the world shuts down, it's like, okay, first single, perfect timing. Let's
Yeah, right.
figure
It's like
it.
cool.
Yeah. Oh, and so, but so the first single that you released was on the radio, correct? That's the name
Yeah.
of it. Okay. What was like as everything was kind of happening? Obviously, you mentioned that you were still very new to the industry and you're just trying to figure things out. But did you do any like did you jump on the inner did you take advantage of everybody being at home with this single, or how did you kind of step outside the box to get this album out there for everyone to listen to?
I started to kind of dabble more into like researching how to promote on social media,
Mm,
because that was the great thing too, is like there was so many either like YouTube videos you could watch or people on TikTok like, hey, like this is a basic way of like how you can get your things out there. So I
mm,
kind of started dabbling into TikTok more,
mm,
trying to upload at least like once a day or something.
Mm,
And no one really knew like a hashtag strategy yet. So I was
yeah.
kind of just like posting things and hoping for the best. And at the time too, I was fortunate enough to get some like virtual like show
Mm,
interviews because everybody was home.
mm,
So that kind of helped me too. But I was just doing the best with what I knew pretty much.
yeah. It- so, and speaking as of like right now, over the last few years from the pandemic, since you started releasing music, what's the independent scene like in Westfield?
Oh boy. Well, I mean, I think we're kind of also in a really nice like evolution of everything right now
Hmm.
too, because in today's day and age, you really can live anywhere and still make things happen. Because I mean, like you can always travel to wherever you need to be for something, but still have like a home base.
Hmm.
Because I lived in Nashville for a year,
Hmm.
um, from like 2021 to about halfway through 2022. And I thought that was the answer kind of when everything was like settling down,
Hmm.
but it wasn't the answer for me. And that's fine. And I'm happy being home now because I can still do everything. I still have access to everything. I just need to travel when I need to travel. And I'm okay with that, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. The reason I ask that is because I'm always curious what like the local scenes are doing and what they're about. You know, like you brought up that there's like a change happening, and I think that's kind of
Yeah.
common across a lot of independent scenes, especially in small. I'm going to say smaller cities because I'm not even going to use the word rural because I don't think that's accurate either. But
Yeah, I got
just like smaller areas as the scenes have to become more independent
you. Yeah,
because people want to hear the music. They want to get out after the last 2 years of,
absolutely.
yeah, we're stuck. What do we do?
Right, exactly. You can only play like Scrabble with your family so many times.
Right, right, right. Um, so throughout you mentioned that you moved out to Nashville for a little bit. Is
Did.
um obviously you said that it didn't quite work out the way you wanted it to. Were you recording in Nashville? Is that kind of where the other three songs come from, or where? Because you have 4 songs out right now. Yeah.
Right, yes. No, actually, so those were recorded in LA
Okay.
in October 2019. And then we kind of had like a set plan of like, all right, let's do the first one, see how it does, and then kind of go from there and release them
Mhm.
all individually to kind of give them a moment. I moved to Nashville, I think I think literally for that reason, what you said, we were all just like stuck. And I felt
Mhm.
like I was just stuck in my hometown. And I was like, I need to get out. If I don't go now, I'm never gonna go.
Mhm.
Worst thing, worst, I come home. So I kind of went there hoping to kind of network and maybe, dip my toes in the Nashville scene down there. But for me, I actually got a huge case of imposter syndrome. I kind of
Mhm.
just showed up and I was like, whoa, everyone here is so talented. Like, what do I bring to the table? Like, I can't compete with these people. And I think that is something that a lot of musicians struggle with at some point, but it's really important to figure out, like, well, what do you bring to the table? Because we all are different. And I think there is room for everyone.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. And you brought it up. Nashville's not for everyone. Like I've gone back and forth on if I want to move to Nashville, if I need to move to Nashville. And
Mhm.
it's like personally for my family life, it'd make things a lot easier because, my dad lives down in Florida now.
Yep.
My sister still lives up near Chicago. Nashville's a nice happy medium.
Yeah.
But I'm also concerned that I'm going to get there and it's going to be like, there's so many people that are just really good at everything. What am I doing here? You know?
That yeah, that's exactly how I felt, which is it's so sad to me when other people feel that way because I would be like, no, like you're so unique. But it's like, why can't I give myself that
Mm,
advice?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, let's jump into the new single that you have dropping on July 1st, Malibu. Uh, first off, what's the story behind this song?
I am so excited for this song. This was actually written January 2021, so like peak pandemic when we were
Yeah.
still in the middle of everything. I sat on my basement floor and wrote the whole thing, probably finished it within like 30 minutes. It was about a stupid boy that I was working with that was like
Mm.
really irritating me. And I finished an entire bottle of Malibu rum myself and then
Nice.
figured out kind of like how I felt about the situation and then just wrote the whole song inspired by rum and a dumb boy.
Nice. That's awesome. Um, so it's releasing July 1st. I don't know why I said 21st, but July
That's okay.
1st.
That's okay.
Uh, it's been a little bit since you've released music. What's kind of been going on during the last couple of years? 2021, you released Deal, which was your last single, and
Yes.
now you got Malibu coming out. What's been going on during the hiatus? Are you just kind of reworking yourself? Like, what's been going on during the hiatus?
I think I needed to take a step back after being in Nashville because I was so overwhelmed with all the
Mm,
feelings of like, I'm not good enough. Like, I don't know, like, why I'm here. Like, what am I going to do next? And, I had songs written in my notebook that were kind of just like sitting there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, like they're not good enough, things like that. So I kind of needed to take a step back. And then, moving home was the best decision for me, kind of reground myself and then figure out okay, well, like, where do I want to go from here? Like, do I want to revamp myself? Do I want to reinvent myself? Do I want to go like a different path? The kind of like figuring myself out that way. Like, what did I want to do next? And I
mhm,
always knew I wanted this to be the next single because it's my
mm.
favorite song I've probably written so far. It was kind of just like, okay, how do I navigate myself to get back into the headspace of like, you are meant to do this, like, you are good enough, and like, this is an awesome song. It deserves to be heard.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to hear it yet, but I'm excited to hear it. Having listened to your other music, I'm really excited to hear Malibu and
But
see what's going on. Plus, you know, it's so funny when we first started talking about doing this podcast, I saw the name Malibu and I just automatically assumed you were out on the West Coast.
that's so funny. Well, I could see why though. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
And it was like the picture. What were you on? Like the visuals that you have out for Malibu now.
Yeah.
You're like on a pontoon boat, and in my head, it's like that doesn't scream East Coast. That screams West Coast to me. But that so
Yeah. We were in Fort Myers, Florida.
okay,
So
fair,
yeah. But
fair.
I could see why though. Like the beach, Malibu, like yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. But anyways, so Malibu, you're kind of what is it? Little less than 2 weeks, more than a week.
Yeah.
Math is not my strong suit, but
Mine either. It's all right.
what's kind of running through your mind right now as you're kind of approaching this final week leading up to Malibu?
Oh, I'm so excited. I think I'm so excited because the two shows I did play in Nashville, I actually played this song to test it out and was very surprised to get amazing feedback. Like I had people coming up to me, they're like, "Oh my gosh, like when is that coming out? I love that song. I can't believe you wrote that about a bottle of Malibu rum. Like that's so cool." You're like, la, 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 la. Like it was like very overwhelming in a good
Mm,
way. So I'm so excited for those people to finally have it recorded out into the world and they can listen to it whenever they want. I'm so excited.
no. Is that something you do with all your music? Is that you'll play it before you like record it and stuff like that? Or was that something just specific because with Malibu, because there was such a gap in between when you were releasing music?
I find myself tending to be that way now, like
Mm,
testing things out before I decide I want to bring them to my team and be like, hey, like, can we record this? I played a show here in my hometown last month and I kind of did the same thing. I was like, oh, these are songs I've never played before. Like, let's test them out just to kind of get the vibe of do
mm.
people like this? Would they want this? So I actually do find myself doing that now.
Gotcha. And how often are you playing shows right now? Are you playing pretty consistently or?
I'm actually not that consistent right now. I do need to get myself out to play some more shows, especially this month. I've just been so hyper focused on like this release and getting things done on like the back end on my side. And then of course working too, as like we all do. So I'm kind
Mm,
of trying to now squeeze myself into, okay, like let's go play some shows now, especially with the song coming out. I definitely want to be out more.
fair, very fair. Have you take so you've got a few releases under your belt now. Are you taking a different approach with Malibu than you would have with like Deal or Hole in My Heart or any of your previous releases?
I think for this one, I'm definitely trying to go bigger
Hmm.
than the previous four. I love each single and how it was released on its own. But I think for this one, we're kind of trying to like revamp it and be like, okay, like this is where we are. Let's bring it to like 3 levels higher. So
Yeah,
I'm kind of putting in more effort that way to get it as big as we can.
for sure, for sure. And are you working on a music video for Malibu? That one just screams like there would be a music video for it.
Oh, there will be a music video for it. That has also already been shot in the Fort Myers, like
Yeah,
Cape Coral area. I'm so excited for that to come out too. It's awesome. It was so fun being on the beach and we were in a pool and we were on a pontoon boat. Like it was so cool.
that's awesome. It's Fort Myers is a cool little area of Florida. It's like
Yeah.
that. It's like a weird pocket where, yes, it's Florida, but it's not actual like crazy Florida. Like I feel like Fort Myers isn't crazy
Yeah.
Florida. So
No, it's like a very like chill vibe, like beachy, islandy kind
mhm,
of feel for sure.
yeah. So you got the have you shot a music video before, or is this a first time for with Malibu?
This will be the 5th music video. Actually,
Okay.
every single of mine has a music video tied to it. They are all on YouTube, and each one has been like so special in its own way. They've all been so fun to create.
Nice. And when you what kind of goes, or how does the selection process work as far as like single, like, so obviously releasing a single has its own expenses, but then deciding to do a music video for it has to have its
Mhm.
own expenses. And so uh I'm guessing you're very selective about the music that you release. How do you kind of go through the process of selecting what single is next, or how you want it to represent you?
Oh, that's such a good question. I really value the opinion of my mom, to be
Mhm.
honest with you. So like I go to her with everything. I'm like, "Hey, I'm like I really want to release this. Like, what do you think about this?" Just because she's been my number one fan forever and we do everything
Mhm.
together. She actually comes with me on all of the recordings, video shoots, all of that. She's kind of like my mom and personal assistant. God bless her heart. She's awesome. But I kind of definitely go to her with a lot of guidance. And I also go to my team too, Eric, who is the head of NI Music Group, I'll
Mhm.
just straight up ask and be like, hey, like, is this a good song? Like, should we do this? Does it need to be tweaked? Do we need to do this? Just because he's been in the industry for like 15 plus years. So he
Mhm.
knows, what a good song is, what a good single is. So would say those are the two people I definitely value their opinion the most before deciding, like, okay, like, let's go ahead and do this.
For sure. It's always good to have that team, or that the
Yeah.
couple of people that you can trust when you have like a question or you want somebody's opinion. It's like, okay, I know this person and this person are going to give me not the answers I want to hear, but the answers I need
It-
to hear.
yes,
So,
exactly. And I think that's so important, especially in really any industry. Like I want honesty more than
mm,
anything. Like if I have an idea and like it sucks, like I want to know that it sucks.
yeah.
It might hurt my feelings for a second, but it's like down the line I'll be like, "Oh, that was actually a really good idea to like
Mm,
not do that or tweak it this way or, whatever."
yeah. And it also comes with like intent. Like
Yeah.
if you come in with an idea and they're just being outright malicious and just with no
Mm,
context to why they're saying the things that they're saying, then yeah, that's a dick move. But
exactly.
if they're just being honest, you have to accept that. And it's like, okay, their opinion, I trust their opinion. They're being honest, they're not being malicious, there's no ill intent
Mm,
there. Yeah.
absolutely.
So moving forward from Malibu, obviously it's still got to release and you got to promote it as it releases and whatnot.
Oh,
What's
yeah.
the plans for the summer moving into the rest of 2023?
I hope to just be everywhere in New England. To be honest with you, I hope I'm playing show. I really do plan on playing a lot of shows this summer. Hopefully, I do have some pretty good connections in Rhode Island near like the Musquamacket Beach area. So I kind of hope to maybe bring the song over there. I think they would really appreciate it, and kind of just see where we go from there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So outside of music, when it comes to life outside of music, when you need to take a break from everything and just kind of decompress, what are you doing? What's your hobbies? What's your vibe when you need to take a step away from music?
Oh boy, I love to read.
Mm,
Love to read. That's such a good like relaxation for me, getting lost in a book in like a world that I'm not a part of, kind of forget about everything. Absolutely love the beach. That is my happy place for sure. I could sit on a beach for the rest of my life and be satisfied just watching the waves
Yeah.
crash. I love dogs. I love my dog. His name is Jethro. He's awesome. I love hanging out with him and kind of just really like chilling. I love being outside and just like listening to the sounds of nature, like going for like a nice like walk or like a hike or
Mhm.
something. It's so peaceful.
Yeah. I think that's very consistent with a lot of musicians is just having to be on point with high frequency, like just being so dialed in and so overstimulated with music and visual and just being overstimulated that any opportunity they get to cut those stimulations off and just sit and relax. I think that's a very important thing for a lot of musicians.
Oh, for sure. I think there's a lot of misconceptions with like social media
Mm,
too, and people who don't like do it consistently, like a lot of musicians do. I don't think people realize how tiring even that can be because, you know, you
mhm,
wake up and we all find ourselves scrolling at least
mm,
like some point throughout the day. And I feel like a lot of times we don't realize whatever we're looking at is impacting like our mood for the rest of the day, whether you see something sad or happy or this or that. So, like, sometimes it's just nice to just shut everything off and
mhm.
just be in your own peace.
Yeah. And like, I mean, just to talk about social media for a second, it's
Yeah.
the issue I have with social media is every anybody that's like consuming it assumes that's how the poster's life is constantly, but in
Yes.
reality, that's like 1/100th of a second of the day.
Yeah.
And they purposely framed it the way they did to make it look the most appealing. Like, I remember the
Absolutely.
first like real experience that I or the first run-in with something like that I had. I was down in the Florida Keys. We were doing media for a bluegrass festival, and we were doing live recordings all day with bands. Like they were just one right after another, and it was just continuous nonstop. And we had 2 minutes between bands. And so my buddy and I, we took like 2 minutes, walked down to like this inlet, like it was like a pier out in the middle of the ocean. And we just took
Yeah.
this really cool looking photo. And I put like feeling the vibes or something, just something
Yeah.
really random. And I
Yeah.
posted it up on Instagram, and everybody got really mad at us, or like family wise, because they thought we were down there just having a good old time and we were
Wow.
working, and it's like, no, we had
Yeah.
like 2 minutes to take
Yep.
that photo. And I literally, that's the only reason I did it, because if I were to post nothing but us working all day, then it's not going to look as appealing. But if I take that photo of that sun hitting the water, it's going to look a
Yep.
lot more appealing. But
Oh, for sure. I think the most important thing to remember, kind of like you said, social media is a highlight reel. You're
mhm,
only going to post your best moments. You're not going to post yourself having a crummy day. Nobody's going to do that.
although I'd be kind of curious to see how people would react to that. Like if you're just having like the
Right?
most beat up, shitty day, and it's just like, you know what? And just post it, see what happens. I think people
Why
might
not?
con- people might connect to it more, but then I don't know. Like I'd be really interested to see how that goes.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's one of those weird areas where it's like you could and more people might connect to you, but then you also might get like backlash. But I feel like that's just with everything.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
wouldn't hurt to just do it.
yeah, for sure. Um, and so are you still planning or doing like covers on YouTube, and I haven't seen them on Instagram recently, but how often are you still doing like cover videos and whatnot?
Jose, I know I haven't posted a cover in a while. I'm kind of like re-grounding myself since our
Yeah.
trip from Florida, to be honest with you. It was like so quick. It's like literally like got on a plane on Mother's Day, shot a music video and recorded all in one day, like turned around, like came home, and then I've just been like go, go, go ever since. So I'm kind of like trying to get myself back into a routine, which
Mhm.
I also think is a huge misconception. I feel like people think like musicians or just people in the entertainment industry like always are on point with everything and always
Mhm.
have like a really strict routine, which for the most part I would say like we pretty much do, but like there's definitely occasions where it's like you just get to a point where you're so overstimulated that like you kind of
Mhm.
fall out of your routine, which
Yeah.
kind of happened to me a little bit. So I'm like slowly like, okay, like let's get back into it. Like you got a lot of stuff going
Yeah.
on. So that's
Yeah.
where I'm at right now,
Yeah.
honestly.
It's one of those things where you get yourself into the grind and you get your momentum going. So like when you hit the road, it's like, okay, you adapt really quickly.
Yeah.
But then once you come back and it's like you have a minute to breathe, you fall out of that routine real quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's that's why I like being on the road, because it's like, all right, I'm spending money to be out here. So in my mind, that switch is already made where it's like, okay, I'm spending money to be here. Let's go. Let's get as much as we can. And I'll kill, like, not literally kill myself, but I'll drive forever just to get what I need done. And then when I come back, it's like, I want to be back out on the road because I don't like just sitting here. Like, this is a
Yeah.
weird feeling. And it takes me forever to get back on track.
Oh yeah, no, I totally understand. I think that's like a normal thing too, though, just as humans,
Mm,
like you're gonna have points where you just fall out of your routine. And I think realizing that that's okay
mhm,
is fine as long as you slowly, move yourself back into your routine and you're doing it in a healthy way. I think that's fine.
mhm, for sure. So you're finally back in the mix of getting music out there. You got Malibu dropping on July 1st. If
Oh,
is there a pre-save link for that somewhere
there is.
on
Um,
it on your Instagram, right?
yes, it is in my Instagram bio. I believe it's also in my TikTok bio as
Oh,
well.
fair.
Whichever
I
you prefer.
I'm more asking so I could post it.
Oh,
I'm
thank you.
I'm asking you questions so I could post it a couple of different places, and
Thank
it's a
you.
middle podcast and all that fun stuff. But you're back in the groove of releasing music and whatnot. Do you already have a plan for like the next song, or you want to just get Malibu out and then we'll figure out the rest of it afterwards?
Kind of in an in between. Like
Okay.
I'm definitely in the back of my mind, like, okay, like what's next? Because I think it's important to have your next like ready, depending on whether a
Hmm.
single is super successful or not. I feel like you should always be thinking of like, all right, like what's next? Because I think you just kind of have to do that in this industry. But I'm also kind of like, let's really focus on this and see what happens and then kind of go from there. So I'm kind of like in an in between, like, yes, I'm thinking about it, but I'm also like, let's see how this goes.
Hmm.
It's kind of in between.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, you got the single and then you got the music video. Are they both releasing on the same day, or are you releasing the single and then the music video will come out a little bit later?
Think we're gonna do the single first and then do
Mm,
the music video a little bit later, just to kind of give it a moment so people can kind of like learn the song, get
mm.
used to it, and then like, here you go, here's some visuals.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, no, it's kind of. I remember back in the day with MTV where it was like music videos were such the driver
Yeah.
for, like, it was the driver for the success of a song or an album or whatever. And nowadays you go to MTV and it's like, do they even play music videos on here anymore?
No.
Now you got to go to YouTube, and like I think MTV bolstered like the need for music videos. And I
Oh, yeah.
think there's a lot of musicians that still release music video, because I enjoy watching music videos because you get to see
Oh,
a lot of
yeah.
real creative
Hmm.
attempts with music videos. But going to like YouTube and whatnot, I still wish we had that MTV, the TRL top 10 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Yeah, that was the big thing back in the day. Like getting your music video on MTV was like huge for a
mhm,
musician.
yeah, it was life changing.
Oh yeah, it's crazy to me that we've evolved so much that, like you said, like it's not even like that anymore. Like you have to go to like YouTube to find
Yeah.
people's music videos, which is crazy because I also enjoy watching them. Like you said, like seeing their creative process, like, okay, like what did they envision this song to look like? And then you
Mhm.
go and watch it and it's like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so one thing that we like to do on Live and Amplified here is we like to pass on information or little tidbits that musicians have learned to the younger generation of ups or musicians that are just kind of making that first step. So what's something that you've learned over the last few years that you would like to pass on to the younger generation?
No matter what, even if you get a million no's, it just takes one person to say yes. And you want somebody to say yes because you stayed true to yourself and you didn't change for anybody in this industry. I think that is so important going into this.
For sure. For sure. Okay. So as we kind of wrap this up, there's one game that I want to play. We play it
Oh,
with
awesome. I love games.
we it's called That's So Random. I have a random question
Oh,
generator.
I love that.
I'm going to ask you 5 random questions.
Awesome.
So here we go. That's so random.
Here we go.
If you could have a week-long, all expenses paid vacation, where are you going?
Oh my goodness, where am I going? Somewhere tropical. Bahamas, maybe. I've never been out of the country, so why not? Bahamas. Sit
For
on a
sure.
beach, have a cocktail.
That sounds good to me. Toyota or Honda?
Ooh. My dad's gonna kill me if I don't say Toyota because he has a Toyota truck. So let's go Toyota.
Fair. What's a principle you live your life by?
Just live. Literally, just live. Live every moment to the fullest. Treat each day like it's your last.
Fair. What is something you could speak an hour about but have no actual knowledge of?
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Something I could speak an hour about but have no knowledge of.
No actual, like you have
Like,
knowledge of it, but like no actual
like
knowledge.
Taylor Swift.
Fair. Fair. And then what is a current trend that you hate?
Oh wow. I'm not really into trends, to be honest. I'm like 26, but I feel so old. So like I don't even know what the trends are right now.
Fair.
So I guess I hate all of them if I don't know about them.
That's true. Okay, and then final question. Many people say the book is better than the movie, but what movie was better than the book?
Ooh, what movie was better than the book? That's so hard. I think the last Twilight movie
Hmm,
was better than the book.
fair. I've not seen any of the Twilight, so I have no
That's
comment one way.
okay. That's okay.
I don't
Sparkly
think
vampires, werewolves.
yeah, I don't think I'm their target demographic, but you never know. Oh, but it's been an absolute blast chatting with you. I've really enjoyed our time together.
Me too.
For anybody that wants to check out your music or pre-save Malibu or interact with you on social, any of that fun stuff, where's the best place to find you online and all that fun stuff?
Been really active on Instagram lately, but all of my handles for all platforms are just at Bekka Dowland. So BEKKADOWLAND, literally everywhere. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all the things.
For sure. Awesome. And just to call back to something we said early on before we jumped on here, you said I was the first person to get your last name pronounced
Yes.
correctly.
Yes.
What is the most common mispronunciations?
Oh God, I've had Dowling, like an Ling. Don't know where they're getting that. I've had
Okay.
Dolan, but I'm like, there's a W in it, so I don't know where that's getting dropped off. So it's never been pronounced correctly the first time until you said it. So thank
Okay.
you.
For sure. I put a lot of effort into making sure I pronounce people's names correctly
Yeah.
because I know what it's like. So my last name is Quiet. It is pronounced KW or it's KWIAT, and I've gotten Quiat, just like the weirdest
Yeah.
things. And it's like,
Yeah.
guys, there's a couple that I'll accept because it's like at least pronouncing all the letters that are in there. And it's like, okay,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
close
Yeah.
enough. But when it's like not even almost right, it's like, guys, did you even read the name?
Right. Right. You're like, where did you get that?
Where did the R come from? Like, I don't understand. So,
Right. Well, that's like with me. I'm like, how are you missing letters? I'm like,
right,
it's right there.
right. Like Dowling, that just concerns me. Like,
ING. Yeah.
oh boy, oh boy. But anyways, once
Working
again,
it
thanks. Yeah.
into.
Once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been an absolute blast. Thank you
Yeah.
everybody for tuning in. If you want to support anything live and amplified, liveandamplified.net is our website. That's where all our socials, all our podcasts, radio show, all the fun stuff. You can find it at liveandamplified.net. Once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Bekka Dowland, appreciate your time, and we will
Oh,
see you
thank
all
you.
later. Awesome.